This regular meeting to order. As you could tell, we had an executive session, and so just returned from that. And we're glad to have all of you here tonight. I think my good citizens have some fans with them, so that's a good thing. And I see several members of our park board here. So as we do our opening tonight, I'd like to remember the Missouri soldier who was killed in Kuwait over the weekend. And his name was Reservist Specialist Jackson Johnson. And that's why the flags were at half-staff today. So if you would join me and my good friend, Reverend Danny Graves, who worked for the city for many years, is going to give us the invocation. If you'll step up here, Danny. And would you remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? Danny.
Well, personally, thank you all for your service. Father God, we come to you today just so very thankful. So thankful, Father, that you've given us these men and women to sacrificially give their time for the service of the citizens of Waynesville and this community. I ask, Father, that you give them the wisdom to make the decisions that would further our community, to make it a good place to live. And we thank you, Father, for the graciousness and the blessings that you've given us. And we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Also, before we start, Mr. Wallace is up there in the video nest. Good evening, Mr. Wallace. And I would in fact, I just reminded myself, Tim, you would turn your microphones on if you want to be heard. And our video class tonight, there's a familiar face. Miss Grace, we're glad to have you. And Ela, did I say that correctly? Isla. And Lily and Katie are up top. So it's Mr. Wallace and the girls tonight. So we appreciate you guys, appreciate all that you do for us. We have a consent agenda, but before we do that, I would like to make a couple of changes. Obviously, Gene Newkirk, even though you are my good citizen, Gene, you are not getting a good citizen award. And so would you put Gene Newkirk as B? And I would also like to move my report down underneath B. My report on the Association of Defense Communities, and that way our guest will not have to listen to that unless you want to. We'd love for you to stay, but you don't have to. So with those changes, I would entertain a motion. Motion from Clarence, second from Mike France, and all those in favor of the agenda, consent agenda. Very good. Thank you very much. And so, as usual, the fun stuff always comes first. And as I said last month, as I do my last year as mayor of Waynesville, one of the things that I really want to do is honor all of the people who do so much for our community and never expect anything for it. I've even honored a few people who, through their jobs, it's their jobs to do certain things, but they have gone above and beyond. Well, these two we're honoring tonight, it's not their job. In a way, maybe, Melissa, right now, since you're working for the health department. But very excited to honor these two individuals because they have done so much for our community. And so I'm going to come out here and talk about them. He takes good pictures. Are you going to give me some good pictures? Can you do it on this? If you don't mind, too, when I get them, okay? Might be a little easier for me to handle. So guys, come up. Melissa Martinez, would you come up, please? Lorenzo Valdivia. I always have to slow down for that one. Would you come up? And I'll just talk about you two at the same time, if you don't mind. Guys, these are our runners. And most of you know these guys because you've seen them at events, you've seen them at marathons, you've seen them running all kinds of events. Almost every weekend you guys are doing something. And I would just real quick, if you don't mind, we'll start with Lorenzo. Tell us a little bit about Red, White, and Blue.
Team Red, White, and Blue, we're a nonprofit veterans organization. We're a national organization. And our mission is to enrich the lives of America's veterans by connecting them to their communities through physical and social activities. So we're just trying to find ways to get veterans connected, back involved in their community, and just turn them and help them become better citizens for.
And you take the non-veterans too?
Yeah, we do.
They do?
Absolutely.
Quite a few of them,
Yes.
I believe.
Yes, we do.
But a lot of running, a lot of challenges.
Yeah, anything physical,
Right.
hiking, kayaking, we try to find what the veterans and those community members like to do and try to find a way to make that happen.
Very good.
Same thing with social.
And do you do the
with that
biking?
stuff. We have some of our leadership that does do biking.
Like David?
Yes, David
Kessler?
Tracy, yes,
Yeah.
we do.
Okay, and Melissa?
I'm with the Frog Fitness Group, and most recently I'm with the Health Department. And we are a nonprofit ministry of athletes. We do free training. Our job is not to make the fit fitter, but it's to help the common person, the everyday person who thinks that they can't do it, who has never run a step in their life. And we show them that they can do way more than they ever thought. And when they do, they generally have a changed perception about themselves. And we put on the Frog Half Marathon. We also put on two ultra marathons a year. We do free 5Ks and free training groups. So, and through the health department, we do Couch to 5Ks. We do aqua running classes to help as well, and all that's free. We do it as a ministry. We work a lot with Team RWV because we share the same agenda of just improving the community through fitness.
And I would remind everybody that Frog, F-R-O-G, has adopted the Frog Fest activities.
Yes, along
And
with
so-
Team RWV.
Yeah, okay, very good, very good. I'll have to be sure and correct that. But FROG stepped up when our volunteers kind of really ran out of steam. You guys would remember that. And they stepped up, and we still have a Frog Fest. And in fact, they've turned it into a month-long Frog Fest. So it's not just the Frog Fest on the square. So we appreciate everything you guys do. I've already given Melissa one of our special pens, and I'm going to give you one of them. It is our Croker pen. That's for you. And if you would, let's take a good picture. Mike, are we away from you a little bit? There we go.
What are you saying?
Yeah, it's a good
They
thing
can't
I
have
mentioned
reflection.
that, Mike.
They can't
The
have
reflection.
flash on the camera.
It's not flashing.
No, I didn't, probably didn't need it. Didn't need it.
One, 2, 3. One more time. Got it.
Very good.
Thank you, Bob.
Appreciate you guys so much.
Another way.
So good. Usually I have to crop you out, Mike. That's why I said that.
I've been kicked out of better places.
I usually, have to just crop. While Melissa's here, I would also remind the city council that Melissa and the health department were the ones involved in the DeWitt Clinic property switch. And that eventually we're going to see the health department have a presence in Waynesville, and hopefully involving swimming and different activities like that. So again, thank you very much for being here tonight. And you are definitely good citizens. Well, Jean, it's your turn. Step on up here, Jean. I almost said class. Class. Gene Newkirk is our presiding commissioner, and he's here with an invitation and an update.
Yes, I put a couple flyers on each one of you there. One of them's the 2018 reconciliation. It's the money that comes in for schools and everybody else. It just passes through the county. It comes and goes, other than the road and bridge that's on there. Everything else pretty much goes back out into to the taxing entity it belongs to. First of all, I apologize. This jail project's been going on a long time. And our first round of plans the architect sent us, there were things I didn't like about it. They were wanting to send it out for bid. Of course, when you send the project out for bid, it's got a lot of cuts and turns in it. It's going to cost you more money. When it come in over budget, what I thought was over budget. I knew we could get this thing done a lot cheaper. And I apologize, I jumped the gun, I went the same route, and I shouldn't have done it because I didn't have a final on it. So I told him this time I'm going to wait till he ends. That way I know where we're at. There's an invite for each and every one of you and everybody that's here, even the public's welcome tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Down at the old middle school, we're going to break ground and get this project started. It's long overdue, and it needs to get done. And I would like to thank the staff of Waynesville. We had a pre-construction meeting yesterday, everything went great. I wanted to thank Daniel Sheldon, Mitch, John Doyle, Joe York, and Nathan. Everything went well. We've got it, I guess they got it set up to where they're going to do the temporary drops. And I told them if there's any charges, we pay for everything on this. A lot of things I didn't put in the financing in the bill. This is some of the stuff that we pay for ourselves. Along with the meters, which there's a little glitch there because they didn't have the gas meter and the transformer. The load wasn't on there. It was where you had to figure it out, but they're coming back with the load so they can get this. So we can pay for that because you pay for it up front. You get it paid for and get it on over. But everything's going great. Good people to work with. I commend you and your staff. It was very good. Bruce stopped in 2 or 3 times during the day, make sure no one was fighting. Nobody was fighting. Everything went great. We went over some things that was just verbal that we've talked about over time with the city of Waynesville, and everything is still intact and going. Where the ball field is, to the west of the ball field, the old, I call it the old raggedy road going into the middle school, gets completely redone in a parking lot. And yes, we're putting the parking lot in there, that way the people using that ball field will have actually parking. This year they won't, but after.
Use that for our festivals too.
Correct, correct. It's going to clean up that whole side of it. And I do have news that both of the places down there did sell.
Very good.
One was bought from out of state, one was bought from a local person.
Are you talking about the Nichols Apartments?
Yes.
The old
Nichols-
USO?
The old USO was sold, and also the old
Library.
JC's, was it, or?
Library.
Library,
The old
correct.
library building.
That was sold also.
You can tell how old I am.
Yeah. I got it right
remember
here,
that.
and you don't, I don't know why. Tomorrow 11, like I say, we'll be doing the digging down there, and the fire department's gonna be down there. They wanted to come with a flag. This is a $14.2 million project as it stands right now, depending on if I want to add anything else to it. I can go as high as $15 million if I want to. I will tell you, over the last 2 years, I have banked every bit of the money coming in. We have paid the architect, it's almost $1 million, already paid for them cash, basically. I didn't finance any of it. Everything along we've been paying for, and I've also put $1.9 million in the bank for future down the road if there's any maintenance or anything needs to be done to this thing when I'm gone. Whoever takes this over after I'm gone, there'll be money there to take care of something breaks.
Oh, and it will.
Oh, it will, it'll happen, it's gonna happen. Is there anything, you guys have any questions? I'll try to answer.
Well,
as best can.
I was looking at your pictures, the photographs that you had.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that you promised me
Uh-huh.
was that the prisoners will not be able to see our park.
Correct.
So there's no openings.
Okay, I'll show you. The sheriff's department is on this side right here.
Turn to that camera right there.
There, okay. Sheriff's department is on the left side of your picture, to here. And you see where it goes down? The jail's down here on this side. If you see, there's no windows there.
Okay.
They do have to have daylight or light, and it's all on the roof. And the roof is, I'm trying to remember how many feet it was up there. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there ain't no one gonna get that high to get out. I can
And
tell you.
the other thing we discussed, Gene, and the public does ask me about it, is when, and then you explained it to me this way. This is the new Sally Port. When the
Yes.
prisoner arrives, it'll actually go inside there. The kids would never see that.
If a Waynesville officer brings someone down that they've arrested, what they'll do is they'll come in, they'll hit the button there, they'll open the door, they'll drive in, the door will shut, contain it.
Very good,
No one can go anywhere.
very good,
Then they'll be able to take them inside the process.
very good.
So everything's contained in this. It's state of the art. The fence along the park, all the fencing along the park down there will have the, I don't know what you call it, for the stick them in there, I guess you can't see.
The opaque inserts, yeah.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
But the upper side will not have it. All the cells that are coming, they're not going to be block cells. These are all prefab cells. They'll be steel powder coated. Every cell will have its own shower. So because federal regulations is now where you have a lot where you can't, where things happen, you know, and each one will have its own shower, other than the pod where there'll be 30 people like in a pod area. Those are your non-violent people that really probably shouldn't be there, but we have to have them there. But yeah, it's really nice.
Very good.
Is this a metal building or?
We changed it to a metal building from the block. Originally it had block, and then they put, I want to tell you, there's so many guidelines to this thing that just, it'll blow your mind. But they go by rating on how long it takes to get, first off, where the cells are, they got to get through that steel plate to get into what we call.
No, I was just thinking of like what it would look like from the park to look over it, you know.
Oh, it's going to look nice.
Okay.
It will look nice.
I was going to ask number of cells that you're planning on right now versus number of prisoners that we've had at a high in our current jail or farmed out at any one time.
Okay. Well, when we first sent this out for bid, it was for 118 beds, and it come in at almost 15 million. We sent it out the second time with the redesign that I put in there. We was able to do 150 beds with this. The highest inmate total that I can recall here recently is 96.
Very good.
You know, it's kind of like the ball field. You build it and they will come. I mean, it's sad, but that's
Let's
the
hope not.
way it's going to happen.
But this will allow you to take federal prisoners.
Temporary, yes.
Okay.
Temporary, yes. Like Fort Leonard, if they had needed someone held just for a short
Right.
period of time, we could hold them instead of them sending them all the way back to Leavenworth, back and forth, we can hold them for a day or two, yes. When we hold them for a long period of time, no.
Okay.
Our bonding will not allow that.
Okay.
But you'll be able to take prisoners from other communities.
Sure, yes.
Like we've been paying other communities.
You know, the price of that's going, when I first started, the price of about $28 a day you would pay. It's up anywhere from $55 to $65 a day, depending on where you send them. And we had one that was handicapped in a wheelchair. We had to send them all the way to Springfield,
Wow.
and that wasn't cheap. Hey, it is what it is. You got to do it.
And tell us a little bit about your time.
You're looking at they're saying 18 months.
So next year
It could
sometime.
be 16 to 18 months, but we're saying 18 months just to be safe with this. Barring we don't have anything major happen where it shuts it down for a long period of time. And the elevation on this, I will tell you, is if you noticed where the dirt is now, where it's been raised up, that jail is going to be on the upper side of this. I can't remember the street in front of it. It's School Street. It's up towards School Street where the old school used to sit way down in the parking lot. Everything on this is up on that. And if you was to set this inside of where the old school, you wouldn't believe it, it's only about a third of the size of the old school. I would have thought it'd been at least a half as big. But no, whenever they overlaid this on top of that side of the picture of the side, it was kind of amazing to me. And off to the east of this is where the Sheriff's Department motor pool will be. We're building it. It's not in part of the project. I will be bidding it out pretty soon as a separate one because I didn't want to have to pay kind of wages for the jail because it gets expensive per square foot. And I can do it a lot cheaper. And it's looking about $300,000 to build it. It'll be bays in there where they can work on them, plus it'll have the storage area where they can store the cars or anything else.
Very good. Anything else? Gene, thank you for being here, and I do plan to be there in the morning.
All
And
you're
hopefully
welcome
some
to
of
be
the
there
other
if you
council
can.
members
If
will be
anybody
there.
can come down,
I think
come down.
Bruce is going, and maybe some of the other employees.
We'd love to have you down there.
Okay, thank you, Gene.
Great being part of it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, and then I had you move my Association of Defense Communities report down just a little bit, and I'll make this fairly short. Obviously, I learned a lot, and a lot of things that I could say. but I want to just basically give you an overview of what I learned there. And first of all, Mayor Lauritsen from St. Robert and I, our garrison commander from Fort Leonard Wood, Colonel Towns, our SOP leaders, as well as Waynesville's own Joe Driscoll, who is now the vice president of that organization. And in fact, he presided over several of the meetings. We were very proud of Joe. But we were all there, and I went the first week of March, and so I wanted to talk about it just briefly and tell the citizens of Waynesville how much I appreciate the opportunity to represent them at meetings like this. I would tell you that this is a great networking opportunity for a city like Waynesville and St. Robert. I would tell you also that I came away from that meeting thinking to myself, we're way ahead of a whole lot of communities, because many of the things that were talked about, we're already doing them. And we've been doing them for several years. Just a few things that was discussed, of course, was something called the Army Futures Command. And that is a program that the Army is really pushing here at Fort Leonard Wood even. One of the things that they kept talking about is that the world is changing, that most of our military installations are designed in 20th century design, and here we are in the 21st. And so the world is changing and the military has to change with it. And they gave the examples of the downsizing that has been taking place, that most of their soldiers now live off base. In fact, I even heard the figure 70%. That overall of the military, 70% of their people live off base. They are concerned about commercial competition, and they're really concerned about their millennial soldiers and the shopping habits that they have, and how that is changing the commissary and the retail at Fort Leonard Wood. Something that you may not know, in America there are 75 military installations. They encompass nearly 14 million acres, 17 time zones across the world, and 12 countries. So that was kind of interesting to me. One of the things that was really pushed at this meeting was intergovernmental support agreements between, for example, Fort Leonard Wood and the city of St. Robert with the water situation. The partnership with Waynesville with the animal shelter. All of those things are perfect examples of this, and again, I was pleasantly surprised that we are really ahead of the curve. And let's see, they kept talking about the base of the future. What is the base of the future going to look like? And for the Army, they kept saying it's going to be a focus on the communities. The communities are going to have to be supportive and willing to accept risk and to be part of this. And so really got a lot out of it. I really came away with a few ideas that I've shared with a few people. It was kind of fun watching our own Colonel Towns give a presentation. And he's an interesting man. I like him a lot. He's the mayor of Fort Leonard Wood. And since I've been mayor of Waynesville, he is my fourth one. And I've always enjoyed the relationship that I've had with these guys. And his topic was things I wish I'd known before I became a garrison commander. And some of them were funny, and others were just very, in fact, the first one he talked about was, I wish I'd known more about our school district and how the school district is organized and who's responsible for what. He did not know some of those things. And then he also found out that Fort Leonard Wood has a relationship with Native American tribes, and so that was kind of some fun things that he told there, that he got invited to Native American conclaves because he literally looks out for the land that holds some sacred land for some tribes. And so that was interesting. So I enjoyed that. And just to end with this, I mentioned the base of the future, and these were the things that they talked about. Number one, they've got to modernize their infrastructure. Whole lot of talk about solar energy, renewable energy, how the military needs to go to that and pay attention to that. That's going to be something very important in the future. Partnerships, community support, sustainability, and the efficient use of land. And of course, Fort Leonard Wood, we're blessed because we have land. There's a lot of it. And we're not encroaching on Fort Leonard Wood. whereas many Army bases and other bases, they are being encroached on. And then a big talk about smart technology, which obviously is the internet, broadband, G5, is it G5, G6? I guess it's G5. All of the new things that are coming down the pike that the military is going to have to be on top of. So guys, again, it was a wonderful meeting. I learned a lot, and again, I want to thank you for allowing me to do that. And moving right along, unless you have questions. Okay, we have our board and commission reports, and our first one is my favorite guy, Sean Wilson. Come up here. And I believe your partners in crime are here. Let's see, I've got Smith Cade, I've got Mr. Malidi, Jeff is my friend, Jeff is our new member on the park board, and we've got Miss Amanda Corin, and we've got the newly elected, I'll let the cat out of the bag, I said Smith. Yeah, Smith. And I'll let the cat out of the bag that Lawrence Beamer is going to be our new chairman, and I'm sure Sean will talk about that. And I believe they have something. Would you like to do that first? Okay, very good. Sean, I just want to say on behalf of the city how much we appreciate you. And you have been a wonderful park board chairman. And as most of you know, Sean has run for city council for Ward 3. And so things will change for him shortly. And we welcome you to this board, hopefully one of these days shortly. So Sean, give us your report.
Thank you. Our last meeting was on March 14th at 6 p.m. Called to order at 6 p.m. We approved the minutes with the corrections. It was voted unanimously to receive those minutes as published. And I'll just move on to the key components here. As far as the sports program, I do want to, last month I told everyone that the track was not the first time for this season here for WSR program, which it was. So I wanted to just give them credit for what they have done. It was me and WYS, I think I got those two mixed up. But this was the first season for track, so they're actually doing a lot of good things over there with the sports program. Also, the increase from last spring to this spring is over almost 150 participants. Increase from last year, 2018 spring sports, and this year. So that's a great, outstanding job, and I think a lot of it has to contribute with the way that they shifted some of the sports around and activities. Summer registration will be from March 1st to the 12th of April, which include the Babe Ruth, Cal Ripken baseball and softball teams. Some of those sports include co-ed, you know where my mind is at right now. Okay. Co-ed T-ball, Cal Ripken T-ball. We also have machine pitch, baseball, Babe Ruth baseball, and all of the ages ranging from 3 to 15. I would encourage you to go out and come in and sign up and get your kids involved in these summer activities to keep them busy throughout the summer. Sponsorship program with WSR, they have up to date, have earned over $1,800, which is outstanding. Also, they have fundraising going on right now with the chocolate candies. They had approximately 79 boxes that were signed out. They had 151 boxes remaining. So they're encouraging people to come and sign out the boxes and contribute. They came up with some initiatives and some incentives to get everyone involved. So I'm going to read these off. And first, if you buy one box, then you'll be recognized on the Facebook page for WSR. If you purchase 2 boxes, you'll get $10 off the next registration. 5 boxes, you'll get an entire season free. 10 boxes, you'll get 2 seasons free. 25 boxes as a team at the end of the season. Collectively as a team, you'll receive a pizza party for all qualified teams. So it's not just one team, it's all that meet that quota. So I think those are great initiatives to get people involved and to help out with the program. Obviously, this helps us to be able to do more within the community with our youth. There is a fundraiser scheduled also at McDonald's at the Waynesville location on the 26th of March, and that'll be from 4 to 8. All the proceeds for purchasing cookies, will go towards the team, plus 20% of the food sales during those hours will go towards WSR. So come out and support. Again, that's March 26th from 4 to 8. And buy cookies. Cookies first, and then you get food. Then the park superintendent report, just we know we had this storm that kind of slowed them down with doing the field prep for soccer. So they have to wait for that to naturally dry out before they can go out and start working in the field. But we also know that we had the sycamore tree, the big tree we had. We lost all of our shade down in the park because it was struck by lightning a few weeks ago. Those that have been down at the park, you see that there's a little bit more sunshine than it was before, but so that has been removed. I wanted to just bring that up. And also, there was some flooding in the RV park. It was up to 11 feet, but there weren't any damage there. Everybody was evacuated without an issue, and there was no damage to the pads. Nothing really notable about the individual parks, but some of the old business that we discussed was the ordinance of respect to the dog leash law. Mr. Beamer made a recommendation that the dogs would, on the trail side, which would be the east side or the west side of the park, would have a leash anytime they operate on the trail. And then there was an amendment to that proposal that was to also designate the Bennett Street Athletic Field as the unleashed side, just so that we could accommodate those that actually play with their dogs, throw frisbees, balls, and work their dogs in that area. So we're keeping those separate. These are just recommendations. We all voted that this was something to consider, and with the contingency of later on even incorporating a dog park, and then of course we'll adjust as we need to then. But this was why the board's recommendation to the council to fix the issue that we had with dogs that were unleashed, and to try to mitigate certain issues, people getting bit, or dogs that were not controlled by voice and things like that.
But I think, wasn't it decided, Bruce, that we'll talk about this one more time? And
Yes, we're going to take that back to the police committee with the recommendation from the park board to discuss.
Okay.
Also, well, I'll just go ahead. In the previous meeting, we did mention, Mr. Cage mentioned about bringing it back to the table about extending the trail over in Laughlin Park. We brought that back to the table. We all agreed that that's something that we need to consider to go ahead and close out, as well as a project is the walking trail that goes up to the spring. So we looked at that as an issue as well. So we brought that. I talked to Mr. Harrell, and he said that's something that we can consider as well.
I remember when we built that was a real issue because it was so narrow. And of course, we knew it was when we put it in. And at that time, though, that's all the money we had to work with. So I'm glad we're looking at it.
New business, of course, Mr. Beamer, he shared the Summit Park proposal equipment. Just to summarize it, once we didn't make a final decision, we're gonna come back to the following meeting, the next meeting that we have. We will have more information about the actual footage, the area that we will actually be able to use, so that we can make sure we select the right type of equipment, considering all of the safety aspects, and not just request equipment and it doesn't fit and have to go back and do it again. So Mr. Brown is going to go up with Mr. Beamer and finalize all those things, and then we'll move forward with what we planned is to address the issue that there were no toddler equipment in the Summit area. Also, we conducted a vote for the new park board president, which is Mr. Beamer was nominated, and everybody approved it, and I think he's going to do an excellent job.
I do too.
He's supposed to start tonight. But I think he's going to do outstanding. He's going to do an excellent job, and he's been really doing well in the Summit area. That's his area, and he paved the road, and he went and knocked on doors, and when we went up there, we had a good showing of one of the projects that we did. So I know that if he carries that same thing to the next level, he'll do well. And I appreciate everybody that I had an opportunity to work with the park board. It was a pleasure, and thanks for putting up with me. I try to get that first sergeant thing out of me sometimes. But areas of concern, we didn't have any major areas of concern. I didn't have any events identified at the time of the meeting. There were still some things not finalized. Our meeting adjourned at 6:45. The next scheduled meeting will be April 11th at 6 p.m. Tentative location, knowing that in the summer times, we do meet out at the different parks. So right now, we're just waiting for the weather, and Mr. Beamer will select that location. I think that's all I have.
Just mention, maybe not details this month, but the National Kids to the Park Day is May 18th. So everybody put that on your calendar.
National Kids to Park Day, May 18th. We also have a final coordination meeting because we keep finding people that want to participate. So we will meet at the park on April 18th at 3 p.m. at the stage. And what we plan to do at that meeting is just pinpoint which organization is going to be at what location so we can create a map. And when the kids come out, they'll have a little passport, and they'll have a map, they'll know where they can go and participate. So that's the plan.
So stay right there, Sean. Lawrence, come up. And your compadres. And your compadres.
Councilman Cruz, come on down.
Yeah. Well, come on down, Mike. I was even going to suggest if you council people would want to gather around behind us when we do a picture and just kind of stand behind. So we can make a nice picture, I think, for Sean.
Okay, since I am now, as if he got done with that, the chairman of the park board, I would like to thank Mr. Wilson for all the work he's done and he's taught me in the last year. And I hope I can take the things that he's laid down and take those things and move them on.
Nice.
And this is going to be something new for me, but we do appreciate everything you've done and your patience, because I have asked stupid questions.
Bruce, would you like to come up and be in here, please?
Yeah, Bruce,
and
please.
Let's everybody turn a little bit so she can get a good picture.
Become friends.
And you guys come on over. Come on over, Alan. Act like you're part of the group.
Short people up front.
Act like you're part of the group. Can you get us all?
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna get 2. 1, 2, 3.
Very good, Sean.
Amber.
Appreciate you so much. And you,
Thanks, ma'am.
did you say?
What did you say?
Take the cover off.
Got it.
Jeff, congratulations. I didn't get to say that to you last time. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Amanda, appreciate you. Kevin, appreciate you.
Another meeting.
You'll be slow going at first.
Great. Here, Alan. Amber, you didn't take your cover off. Thank you. Oh, goodness. Thank you, Park Board.
Yeah.
All right, Planning and Zoning, we did not have a meeting this month because we had one last month and did it all, didn't we, Alan?
Yes, ma'am.
Standing committees, Roads and Grounds, Councilman Clark. Give us the short version.
That would have to be somebody who was at the meeting, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In
Who
the
was at the
absence
meeting?
of Councilman Clark, it was my turn
Okay.
to take over.
Hit it.
So I called the meeting to order at 4:30 on March 7th. We had Councilman Brown, Dr. Brown, sit in as our third. Your first part of the discussion was the one-way around the square, which would encompass parts of Lynn Street, the backside, and down Benton Street. Route 66 is not part of it, it'd just be those three sides. And which has been talked about for probably at some point during the last 3 or 4 years, we've had discussion, if not, and a little bit longer. Ever since it was part of a study by S&T several years ago. They're the ones that brought the recommendation to us. And then also a portion from where Security Bank or the accounting office and Ursula's Jewelry is making that street, Lynn Street down there, a two-way street, which would preclude parking on that street at any time, because that street really narrows down once you get there. And it's still going for more discussion with various parties. The mayor has discussed these plans and thoughts with the downtown business people and some other groups that would have say in this. Okay, so moving on, we requested, there was a subject brought up that had already been talked about in police committee regarding Olive Street and Pine Street around the park area. Change that speed limit from request to increase the speed limit from 10 mile an hour to 25 mile an hour on a portion of Olive Street located from historic 66 to North Street. He stated the request raised the concern that it was hard to decrease your speed to 10 mile an hour when you're turning off historic 66. Mr. Harrell stated that the police committee had made a motion to make this change. Mr. Harrell stated that he had also received a request to increase the speed limit from 10 to 25 on a portion of Pine Street located from Highway 17 to Bailey Street for the same reason. He stated the police committee recommended to increase the speed on this portion of the road, but no further due to future planning developments at the end of the park to include bathrooms, possible dog park, and more ball fields. Councilman Brown made a motion to defer to the police committee decision. Councilman Liberty seconded the motion. Councilman France abstained. The motion passed. Recreational trail grant update. Archaeological bids are sent out request for bid to various different archaeologists. Bids are due back March 8th, and we did get those back. And I think it was somewhere around $4 or $5 grand.
Between 3 and 4.
Between 3 and 4,000 to check us out for archaeological issues. Endangered species. Mr. Harrell stated that we have been cleared to move forward by Fish and Wildlife after a discussion, Hammerhead with Rebecca at Missouri DNR, stating we would not be affecting any endangered species habitats. Street Department update. Mr. Harrell stated that GW Lane, left-hand turn lane lights need adjusting. He presented the committee with a photo provided by a citizen that showed travel backed up. He stated that we would contact MoDOT and ask them to complete a traffic study. Mr. Harrell stated that he contacted MoDOT about removing a dangerous tree on T Highway. MoDOT asked to do a cost share, and city workers assisted them with labor and city equipment. The tree was removed safely. Mr. Harrell gave an update to the committee on what the street department has been doing recently. He stated that they have plowed snow, worked in the industrial park burning brush and laying gravel and rock on the industrial park road and around the spec building, filled potholes, fixed signs that were damaged in the winds. Mr. Harrell stated that we have enough salt and sand to get through one more major weather event, but if we have more beyond that, the city will need to purchase more. Mayor Hardman stated that she is still working to get the Route 66 emblems down on the square and is hoping to complete that project soon. And that's that portion of the square that we've already discussed being one way. Route 66, MoDOT knows. There was a need for a closed session. Councilman Brown made a motion to enter into closed session. Councilman Liberty seconded the motion. The motion passed, and the committee entered into closed session at 5:03. Councilman Liberty made a motion to enter into open session. Councilman Brown seconded the motion. The motion was passed. Committee entered into open session at 5:15. There being no further business, the meeting was adjourned at 5:15. Next meeting, April 4th, 2019 at 4:30 p.m. Subject to your questions.
Woohoo! Anybody? I think several of these things we've talked about for several months, and we'll keep you apprised. Utility. Mike, keep talking and give us the short version.
Yes, ma'am. I called the meeting to order on March 5th at 3:30. We discussed there were several citizens who have brought up that their bills were exceedingly high They were offered all the options of testing their meter, and depending on what their bill was, we have always negotiated for some of our citizens a payment plan to help them out over these periods. But we had a number of days that were very, very cold weather, and we found that there's only five states that have lower rates out of the entire United States that are lower rates than what we have. So, you know, we don't raise and lower rates based upon the weather and stuff like that, which some people seem to think we do. Basically, if you know, some people turned off their heat all day so that they wouldn't have to pay, and then they turn it back up to 72 at night, and so boom, you put on the little heat, the toaster, emergency, you have, you know, and boom, you're really watching your meter spin when you do that. So anyhow, we discussed that. Discussion of proposed backflow preventer ordinance. Backflow preventers, they weren't required in any of the building codes or anything like this, but they are a good idea. We are looking at those going into commercial entities and future residential, but right now we've got it on hold for a little more study by our lawyer before we will do any more action on it. And it will be discussed in our next meeting, depending on what our attorney finds. Proposed tree trimming service agreement. We got in some bids with the low bid coming once again for B&N Tree Service. And so we're going to have them start clearing a couple of areas that Dana Shelton, our electric supervisor, has said. We were very pleased with the work they did and the timeliness of it last time, and so we're very happy to have them coming back in. Cost estimate on well number 2. That's the one down on the I-Corps property that's in the floodplain down up near the funeral home and that. That well house, it can't be fixed. It would cost more to fix it than to replace it, and that's what we're looking at doing. But when we do this, we're raising it, so we've got to do some things to the well. It's electrical panels, everything. So that's why you'll see that it's estimated to be about almost $16,000. Now, consider that an estimate, all righty? So please keep that in mind. Department updates, e-billing research. Ms. York stated that we are continuing to work with our software management company to add this feature to our utility bill. She also updated the committee that DataTech has been acquired by G-Works with a scheduled meeting with the cities set for later this month. Gas Department, Mr. York stated his department installed new services to the Jehovah's Witness Church out on Route 60, Old 66/17, and is checking valves, walking the line, and checking the cathodic protection for the city. The EIA natural gas annual report from the FERC has been completed. The electric department, Sheldon stated that his department has had 3 outages, 5 street light work orders, 1 new service installed, 1 meter test, installed fencing at the pole yard, completed right-of-way trimming, and 2 apprentices went to training in Jeff City. The water department, Sheldon stated that his department had 27 work orders, repaired a main leak on Reporter Road, repaired a sewer line on Hillside Road that was ruptured by a general contractor putting in cable or fiber optics stuff, and spent the day working on well number 4, completed yard repairs, and changed out a meter. The treatment plant is running in great shape.
Very good.
Councilman Prince said there was a need to go into closed session for discussion of personnel, real estate, and legal in accordance with revised statutes, Missouri. A motion was made by Councilman Brown to go into closed session at 4:08 p.m. and seconded by Councilman Conley. Motion carried at 4:44 p.m. The committee came out of closed session, having no further business. The meeting adjourned by myself at 4:40 p.m. Next meeting will be April 2nd at 3:30 p.m. here in City Hall. Subject to your questions.
I always laugh at you because you give every little detail about closed session, so I apologize for laughing at you.
I'm not
But you
worried.
gave a very good report. Any questions for Mike? Anybody?
Thank you.
A lot of stuff going on in utilities as usual. And I would say roads and grounds also, that as the weather changes, we're really going to see a lot of projects begin. So we have an ordinance tonight that involves our tree trimming process, which, by the way, I'm very proud of. The city has done a very good job over the last few years of trimming our trees, and it cuts down on our electric outages and all kinds of damage, whatever, and so I'm very proud of that. Counselor?
Thank you. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Waynesville to execute a tree trimming services agreement between the city of Waynesville and V&N Tree Service LLC, fixing an effective date. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Waynesville to execute a tree trimming services agreement between the city of Waynesville and V&N Tree Service LLC, fixing an effective date.
I entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Mike France, seconded by Ed Conley, and discussion and questions. Mr. Harold, do you have anything to add to this? I think you did a pretty
B&N
good job.
was the low bidder, and we used them last year, and we were happy with their service.
Very good. Any questions? Madam Clerk, and this is ordinance 2353. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilman Brand?
Yes.
Councilman Conley?
Yes.
Councilman Liberty?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Brown, yes.
Councilman Curtis?
Curtis, yes.
Yes. Councilman Clark?
Yes.
Councilman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Poker?
Yes.
Thank you.
I love it. Little levity, I love it. Cleanup day. I was going to say that for utilities. Cleanup day is April 18th. April 18th. I think I have that out on the Facebook page, hopefully on our website also. So April 18th. Everybody's always wanting to know when that is. Okay, Finance and Human Resources, Councilman Liberty.
Meeting was called to order at 5 p.m. Myself and Councilman Curtis were present. Vote was called to approve the bills. Bills were approved by both myself and Councilman Curtis to pay the bills. Monthly budget review and account status. Mr. Harrell reported that we have over $4.6 million in the city bank account, with $3.1 million in reserve, and restricted accounts over $1.4 million in available money. Mr. Harrell reported that at the end of February, we should be at 16.6% of our budget projections. And at the end of February, actual revenue is at 16%, and our expenses are at 12%. At this time, we're doing very well. Review of bid notice for municipality insurance. Mr. Harrell explained that the state statute is to bid out at a minimum of every 6 years. And per Mr. Harrell, 2 proposals were submitted: Bassett Insurance and Murmur Insurance. And Murmur Insurance offers workman's comp as part of the insurance, whereas Bassett Insurance isn't. Therefore, the committee recommended that the council consider and vote on Murmur Insurance. Mr. Harrell reported last month that the city had been awarded Volkswagen grant. This grant was completed by Amber Bott. We were one of 7 cities to be awarded money. And it's for a city to have a new dump truck. The truck has been ordered. It was stated we needed a closed session for legal personnel and real estate in accordance with RSMO 610.021, 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Councilman Curtis moved to go into closed session for that purpose, and it was seconded by myself. Vote was called, unanimous. Went into closed session at 5:13. Return to regular session at 5:29. Being no further business, the meeting was adjourned at 5:29. The next meeting will be April 11th, 2019 at 5 p.m.
Very good. Okay, again, we're going to, I'm sure, talk here a little bit about the insurance proposal, and that is an ordinance that we're going to be asked to look at tonight. We'll wait for Ms. Folkert to get back here just quickly. Mr. Harrell, could you possibly, for the public, just kind of talk about MIRMA and what it is. I think maybe describe it a little better. Is this an acronym? It's an acronym, isn't it?
It stands
MIR.
for Missouri Intergovernmental Risk Management Association. And basically, it is one of Missouri's oldest self-insurance pools, and it's comprised of 80 cities working together to control and cover and control their losses. So it's a pool, and its membership is only available to cities, and it is governed by a board of directors made out of different city officials. And so its design is basically to cover the insurance coverage for cities at the lowest potential cost. It's not a profit-making organization. It's designed to, cover our insurance at the lowest possible cost. They do include, extensive, on-site loss prevention. There's extensive safety program, as depicted in the information. I know we've been happy with Bassett Insurance for many years. I've heard many good reports from other cities that are in this program, from other city administrators and other, Rolla Municipal Utilities, for example, was one that recommended this insurance pool. So it's a little bit different than normal insurance. In the past, the city has worked with many pools. Many pools of cities. For instance, one pool of city, we get our electric from a power pool. We get our natural gas from a pool of cities. So we've done things with cities in the past, basically to lower our cost. Cities working together to keep our costs low, and this is another example of that. I know it is different than normal insurance as a pool of cities. I think it would be subject, one of the biggest changes it could be subject, if a lot of cities had some major hits in one year, they could increase our premium. And that has happened once, and I think in the past 30 years they've had to do that with about an 18% increase. So that is one element to consider. Of course, an 18%, there is a big price difference. Even with the 18% increase, we'd still have a substantial savings with this pool. There is a potential, after they evaluate our safety program, that we could get a discount from this price as well, as long as you comply with their different safety programs. And we do have a good safety program in the city, which has reduced our workman's compensation rate. So I think that's some of the major differences between with this insurance pool.
Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to add that it was a very difficult decision for the Finance and Human Resources to make, but what it boils down to is saving the residents of Waynesville money.
Okay, and let's save our comments just for a moment, and I'm sure we're going to have more comments, Clarence, as we do this. We have ordinance 2354, Counselor.
Thank you. First reading, an ordinance authorizing the city of Waynesville to approve and execute all documentation necessary to join the Missouri Intergovernmental Risk Management Association, called MIRMA, for property and casualty insurance, fixing an effective date. Second reading, an ordinance authorizing the city of Waynesville to approve and execute all documentation necessary to join the Missouri Intergovernmental Risk Management Association, MIRMA, for property and casualty insurance, fixing an effective date.
I'd entertain a motion. Motion by Mike.
Second.
Second by Alan. And discussion, and I would also maybe like to echo what Clarence has already said. And I'm sure all of us feel the same way. Amber, would you check on Miss Volker, please?
I don't think she's going to make it back.
Okay. I'm always worried.
Okay.
Okay.
I think.
Again, all of us have these concerns because, and I said earlier, Waynesville has always worked hard to keep our business local and to keep our tax money within our city. Sometimes that's not possible. And I tell you, this is going to be a hard decision tonight for all of us, because these people, the Bassett family, are our friends. And as Bruce said earlier, they've done an excellent job with us. it's really just the question of saving $70,000. And, again, it's a hard decision. This is why we make the big bucks. You guys don't make any, and I make a little. This is why we make the big bucks. So again, I just expressed those sentiments. Are there any other questions or comments that anybody wants to make? Go to this side first. Okay, this side? Okay. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilwoman Bogert. Councilman Davis.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Curtis.
Yes.
Councilman Brown.
Yes.
Councilman Liberty.
Yes.
Councilman Connolly.
Yes.
Councilman Grant.
Yes.
That ordinance passes. And I think Mr. Harrell pointed this out. This is not our health insurance, this is our property insurance.
Right.
All right? And then, did you want to say anything about the use tax tonight?
I will during my report, if that's okay.
Very good, very good. Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, Police Committee, Ed, Councilman Conley.
Okay. We met on March 7th with the usual people present. We had 3 guests, the mayor, Councilman Liberty, and Councilman France. The meeting was called to order, and we discussed the speed limit changes on Pine and Olive Street, and that's already been reported by utilities. We talked about the leash law ordinance in the Waynesville parks, and basically we have a disagreement between what the committee decided and what the park board decided, so not a big deal, we'll work it out, so that's been passed on. We did talk about a dog park, so we're discussing dog parks. We had a police department update. The chief informed he applied for 2 MoDOT traffic enforcement grants, one for hazardous moving violation and the other for DWI enforcement. They're the grant that they apply for every year. Councilman Brown made a motion to submit the application. Councilman Booker seconded, and it was approved. Chief also informed us that he had put in for a grant for a new live scan equipment, and we will get an answer in the next couple of months on that. And we discussed a minor traffic accident where someone backed into the chief's car.
That's definitely a bad day.
That was a bad day for somebody. They damaged his front license plate.
Which towed the car.
Definitely told that car.
The chief informed us the K-9 recertification will be held at the end of April, and the sheriff's department is sponsoring training for the chief to become a generalist instructor with Missouri Post, which means that once he completes that training, any training that he passes on to our officers will count against their mandatory post education credits. We now have not 1, but 2 dedicated traffic officers. And because of that, we can probably do a better job on enforcing parking regulations downtown. Councilman France wanted to know what the fines were.
$25.
Been clarified. We also talked about, made a change in policy. The police department's policy and procedure manual actually specified the brand of weapon and the brand of ammunition. It now no longer will specify that. It will say, it'll define firearms and ammunition that are department approved, rather than naming specific brands. Mars Company out of Raw, who provides all the Royal Canine dog food to our canine program every year, has asked the police department to participate in an event on March 30th. They're going to hold a canine demonstration. We have agreed to approve the request. Had no need for closed session. Next meeting, April the 4th.
I wanted to just say to the city council, and we'll be doing this through committees, but I have asked Mr. Harrell to get with the chief to come up with some suggestions for enforcing the parking around the square. And obviously, if we do that we would make a big announcement about that. It would not be something we would just do. And then the other thing, of course, we would give warnings for probably
2 days.
several weeks until people got used to it. So anyway, we're working on that. It's much like the one way around the square. We're working on that, so be expecting some things. We do have some ordinances, I believe, is it one?
There's 3.
No, we have several. Okay. We have ordinance 2355, and this is the one about this, making the speed limit more reasonable in certain areas around the park. Counselor?
And ordinance amending ordinance number 2112, establishing the speed limit of 25 miles per hour for a certain section of Olive Street and Pine Street unless otherwise posted, establishing penalties for violation, repealing conflicting ordinances, fixing an effective date. And ordinance amending ordinance number 2112, establishing a speed limit of 25 miles per hour for a certain section of Olive Street and Pine Street unless otherwise posted, establishing penalties for violation, repealing conflicting ordinances, fixing an effective date.
Very good. I'd entertain a motion. Jerry makes that motion.
Second.
Second down here from Cecil. And questions and comments, and I want to say to the public that all this really does is it removes the 10-mile-per-hour speed limit once you turn off Olive Street at Route 66 at the gas station. That used to, it is 10 miles per hour until we vote on this, until you get to North Street. Then it becomes 10. So we're changing from Olive Street at Route 66 to North Street, we're changing it to 25. We're doing the same thing on the other end of the park when you turn off Highway 17 and you're going down Pine Street. It is 25 until you get to Bailey Street, which is the street where the jail is. Okay? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilwoman Fulker?
Yes.
Councilman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Clark?
Yes.
Councilman Curtis?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Liberty?
Yes.
Councilman Connolly?
Yes.
Councilman Frank?
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. And then we have two ordinances that have to do, what is that? Oh, yes.
Stand by.
Dumbo the elephant.
Okay. Wow. We have two ordinances, and let me describe them. Darrell, you gave us a little bit of levity there.
You really don't want me on.
I know, you stay back there. We have two ordinances that are going to allow us to apply for traffic safety grants through MoDOT. And of course, we're very used to these, and so the first one is ordinance 2356. Counselor.
Thank you. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Waynesville, Missouri to execute a financial assistance agreement available under the Missouri Highway Safety Program for traffic enforcement, DWI enforcement, fixing an effective date. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Waynesville, Missouri to execute a financial assistance agreement available under the Missouri Highway Safety Program for traffic enforcement, DWI enforcement, fixing an effective date.
I'd entertain a motion. Motion by Ed, second by Mike. And questions? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilman France?
Yes.
Councilman Connolly?
Yes.
Councilman Liberty?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Curtis?
Yes.
Councilman Clark?
Yes.
Councilman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fulker? Yes. Thank you.
That ordinance passes. We have ordinance 2357. Counselor.
Thank you. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Waynesville, Missouri to execute a financial assistance agreement available under the Missouri Highway Safety Program for traffic enforcement, hazardous moving violation, fixing an effective date. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Waynesville, Missouri to execute a financial assistance agreement available under the Missouri Highway Safety Program for traffic enforcement, hazardous moving violation, fixing an effective date.
Very good. I'd entertain a motion. Motion by Mike Curtis, second by Cecil. And any questions? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilwoman Fulker?
Yes.
Councilman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Clark?
Yes.
Councilman Curtis?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Liberty?
Yes.
Councilman Connolly?
Yes.
Councilman France?
Yes.
Thank you.
That ordinance passes. We have our airport report. Mr. Harrell? Oh, and by the way, Michelle is passing the MoDOT grants have to all be signed by all of us. So they'll work their way up this way. Okay, Bruce?
Hey, Mayor, we had the meeting on February 26th. We had some comments by guests. Corolla talked about the arrival times to get on the Contour flights and After some discussion, if you had baggage, you should get there 2 hours early. If you just had carry-ons, we recommended getting there 1 hour early. So we discussed that. We presented them with our budget report and operations report. We did talk about the alternative essential air service, which is different than the normal essential air service program. Basically, it's a grant, and if you don't know it, tonight you did approve a check for about $149,000 that's going to Contour, and then we get reimbursed through the Department of Transportation. So it's a reimbursement program for the city. We did discuss the Part 139, which we were proud that we completed. The board made a recommendation that we submit a MAP application. It's a military aircraft program grant application. And we've used that program in the past to get about $6 million in different grants for our airport. So you have that as an action. After this report, we discussed the terminal area master plan. We're still working on that. We'll probably bring that to a future meeting of the city council. We discussed the parallel taxiway project. We just received word. We've been waiting since about October to get approval from Fort Leonard Wood to proceed with the parallel taxiway project. We did get approval this week, so we're getting all those projects moving forward. We're also working on the terminal project modular units. Of course, it's going to take more space to handle 30 passengers as opposed to 9 passengers. So we're in the process of ordering some modular units to help with space restrictions there. Let's see, we've got some marketing updates. I think Amber's been working on some marketing programs to include some billboards, and if you attend a movie in the Waynesville Theater, you should see an ad about our airport there. So we're proud of that. And we have had a meeting with the garrison commander. We also talked about changing the flight times, tweaking them to make them a little more convenient for soldiers and the public to connect with connecting flights. So that's subject to your questions. That's my report.
Very good. A lot of stuff happened at the airport.
Is this a change of engineering out there?
Yes, we have changed our engineer. We're using CMT for certain aspects of the engineering, and we're using, some of the things they have to complete. We do have a new engineering firm recommended by the board, which is Burns and McDonnell Engineering.
So they're replacing CMT ultimately?
Yes, yes.
Very good. Guys, this is ordinance number 2358. Counselor?
Thank you. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an aviation project consultant agreement between the city of Waynesville, city of St. Robert, and Burns and McDonnell Engineering Company, Inc., fixing an effective date. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an aviation project consultant agreement between the city of Waynesville, city of St. Robert, and Burns and McDonnell Engineering Company, Inc., fixing an effective date.
I'd entertain a motion. Motion by Mike.
Second.
Second by Cecil. And are there any questions or comments? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilman France?
Yes.
Councilman Conley?
Yes.
Councilman Liberty?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Curtis?
Yes.
Councilman Clark?
Yes.
Councilman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Colbert? Yes. Thank you.
And that ordinance passes. In fact, both of them did. I don't believe I said that, but both of those passed. Okay, our last standing committee is Economic Development and Councilwoman Fulker.
As soon as I can find my... There it is. Thank you. Okay, we called the meeting to order at 5 o'clock. We had no citizen comments. We talked about our social media policy. Mr. Harrell presented the committee with the updated copy of our proposed social media policy. Due to the requirements to follow the Sunshine Law, the city needs to ensure that we have guidelines for staff on person and city pages. He stated he wants to keep the city Facebook business page professional And Michelle Brown discussed the retention requirements for official city pages and how the city plans to fulfill them. And the committee requested that we have more time to review the changes, and we'll take action on the policy at our April meeting. Economic development issues, the OEA grant. Mr. Harrell presented the committee with an overview of how the Leonard Wood Institute and Sustainable Ozarks Partnership have utilized the OEA grant fund so far, and that the city could benefit from this grant due to the research and surveys, especially at the airport. We have no other business. We did go into a closed session, so Mr. Brown made a motion to enter closed session at 5:04. I seconded the motion, and the motion passed. And we came out at 5:17.
Very good. A lot of stuff going on, some that we can't talk about yet, but we're working on several things. And on your desk, I put a copy of the Remember the Removal riders who come through every June and usually always make a stop in Laughlin Park because we are a site on the National Historic Trail. And I thought this was interesting too because of the picture on the right. There's a picture of them struggling up the hills near Lebanon, Missouri. And they always tell us that, the hardest part of their trip is getting through these Missouri Ozark hills. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. But they have picked their riders, and I believe there's 18 of them, and they have a Facebook page called Remember the Removal, and you can actually keep up with their training and things, Mike, that you might be interested in.
I rode with them one year.
Yeah, remember the garrison commander did too, so great thing. And also we know now the date for Freedom Fest on the downtown square, and it'll be June 15th. And so be sure to mark that on your calendars. And I believe the old stagecoach stop opens on April 6th. So there's 2 good dates for you. City Administrator report, Mr. Harrell.
Okay, Mayor, I'll just hit a few highlights. One highlight is our city sales tax revenue is showing some positive growth. And our community improvement district reached a new record in sales tax the last month, so that's good. And as you mentioned, the use tax income is exceeding our budget projections. We projected $40,000 for the first year, and year to date it's been about $34,000. We've only gone through 2 months, so that's a positive sign for the city. Excuse me.
So keep
I do want to mention a lot of things have already been reported through the different committees and the park board. Waynesville did host a spring tech conference for the Missouri Public Utility Alliance. It was held at OTC, so we appreciate OTC giving some classroom space for that. And Daniel and Sheldon and I attended the conference, and we got some ideas we'll bring to the utility committee. Other than that, subject to your questions, that's my report.
Okay, many of the things that you had we were already discussing.
Yes, already discussed in the committees.
Can I just say, Dr. Brown here made a comment about buy online. I don't encourage people to buy things online if they can buy them local. I try to always spend my money local. But obviously, if we got $34,000 in 2 months from internet sales, people are buying online.
And Mayor, that doesn't cost the city of people of Waynesville 1 penny in tax increase.
That is right. It's already being collected.
Right.
And I will just tell you that I am happy with what we did with the use tax. And, cities all around us failed. They have not been able to collect that money. Well, we have designated the money from this use tax to go to roads. And I will just tell you about midterm, when we do our midterm look at the budget, we're going to be looking at doing some roads and some stormwater work. So my compliments to the citizens of Waynesville for allowing that to happen. And much like the citizens approving the law enforcement tax, when you explain things to people and tell them the truth and tell them how it's going to be used, I think people are very willing to go ahead and do those things. And this use tax, I think, is a perfect example of that. We'll start with comments. Mike, do you have anything for tonight?
I was driving yesterday morning. Our kids are going to school in the dark.
Oh, yeah.
I turned this corner after stopping at a stop sign, and I had not seen this kid before that. He was in total black hoodie and pants and was standing right behind a pole. I mean, when you send your kids out, you might want to think about a degree of visibility, because, I mean, I was driving less than 15 miles an hour, and I didn't see this kid till he was right beside me.
Aren't you glad we got stopped?
No, I'm not. But, I mean,
I'm sorry.
just think about that and watch what your kids are going outside in and caution them about visibility. It's hard enough to see them anyway.
Very good. Ed?
Well, it's not only kids. I had a gentleman walk in front of me late one evening in another part of town wearing complete dark. The big thing is make sure that not only are your kids and your adults dressed well when they go out where they be seen, but you need to make sure you drive in accordance with the speed limits, because we do have 2 traffic enforcement officers.
That's right.
And I want to point out that we changed those speed limits, so when you hit our parks, from any direction, it's 10 miles an hour. That was done to protect the safety of our children.
Very good. And Clarence?
Thank you to all the residents of Waynesville for taking part in the things you do that people probably do not see. Thank you to Mr. Harrell and his staff and all the departments that in the city of Waynesville. That's it.
Jared?
Folks, it's been a long time coming, but welcome to spring.
Amen. Mike?
She took mine. I was going to say, welcome to spring. Bike riders, my wife and I, we go down the city route all the time. And since we put the sign up, people are more friendly. So that was a good thing.
Very good. Alan?
Nothing, man.
Very good. And Cecil?
I want to put a plug out for the kids, the sports kids. They're doing a great job fundraising. Please support their fundraisers. You can get cookies and a double cheeseburger at McDonald's on the 26th of March. Everybody loves McDonald's. If you don't, give it to somebody else. But, I mean, we're getting our kids out of the house. We're giving them some activity to do. They're working for it themselves. So help them work for it.
Very good.
Well said.
Cheryl?
The only thing I have to say is because it is spring, kids will be out more. Please watch out for them. They will dart out when you least expect it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I will end the night by saying congratulations to, in fact, most all of these are Waynesville residents, but the Waynesville High School Foundation Committee has announced their honorees for the year. And the WHS alumni are Judge Doug Long. Keith Pritchard will go into the Hall of Fame as alumni. And honoring the educators are Pauline Strain, and I believe Pauline would say she's from Richland. But I worked with Pauline for many, many years. Most of you remember Pauline. I think she taught for 50 years. And I love that woman. And oh my goodness, C.W. Parker. They're going to honor C.W. Parker. C.W. Parker was the mayor of Waynesville. He was the superintendent of schools. He was one of a kind, and I would just like to remind everybody that when he died, he planned his funeral, and all of his pallbearers were women. I was one of them. I was a pallbearer at C.W. Parker's funeral. Is that a hoot? I know he was up there in heaven looking down, laughing his head off at that. But we had a great day that day saying goodbye to C.W. He was one of a kind. So congratulations to all of those people. It is a great honor. And everybody have a great month. Hopefully by the time I see you in April, we will have spring weather. And remember, the municipal elections are April 2nd.
Everybody go out and vote.
Thank you.